This is Boxes and Briefs, a podcast with real-life business stories. But we will be asking the hard questions and challenging traditions. So broaden your thinking with fresh perspectives and solve problems for business success. Welcome to another episode of Boxes and Briefs. My name's Lisa Garrett.
I'm Tori Munya.
And today we have Gilligan Sheppard co-owner, founder Bruce Sheppard. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Indeed.
So he's done some pretty neat stuff over the years, and Boxes and Briefs is actually named after his legacy. He stands up to the bullies, that's the boxes part, and he's able to provide advice in an understandable way, that's the briefs part. We have had one comment on the Boxes and Briefs thing, which is there's no female underwear there, but I do think we've done that on purpose because of you.
Well, look, if you'd like to take your underwear off,
No, I'm good, thank you.
I could wear it on
Thank
my
you,
head.
next.
Yep. He's also the guy at the office that everyone loves, but is also embarrassed to be around when he's only got his bike pants on. Yes, he does do that to us. So, Bruce, today we're talking about employment share or stock ownership plans.
Mm-hmm.
Something that you've done here at Gilligan Sheppard, and so we want to ask you some questions about it. But is this the only one that you've done, or have you been involved in this in a few different companies?
I serve on a lot of boards, and most of them are startups, and a fair number of them are tech-based businesses, and employee share option as opposed to share ownership plans
okay.
are very common in startups for a number of reasons. Firstly, they have bugger all cash, so they'd prefer to pay people in future promises rather than money. And secondly, they really do need to retain their talent through a critical journey, so locking them in with long-term option plans and the dream of riches seems to them to be the most sensible thing to do. So I have deployed a number of share option plans, but the only share ownership plans I've deployed are here and in another traditional business.
Okay.
So you mentioned that it can be used to lock employees in for the long term. So it's kind of sneaky.
Yeah.
What's the
Right.
benefit for the employee?
So if you start with why do companies do it? They either do it because everyone else is doing it,
Yep, not a good reason.
which is the worst reason to do anything. And they do it because all of the startup companies in Silicon Valley offer option plans to their employees, and it seems like it works. So then all the talent and employees want those plans in order to take a job. So it just becomes something you do because everyone else is doing it, and you have to do it to retain or attract the talent you want. And in my mind, they're the worst reasons for ever doing anything. You are better to do it because of a philosophical reason or a genuine desire to incent and share than to do it for the purpose
Like
of
the
being
company
like everyone
benefits
else.
kind of thing.
So if you simply want to be a lemming running off a cliff, join the crowd of lemmings and run off the cliff. If you want to be different, work out how to be different.
Okay.
So I try to make our share option plans in every business I start tailored to the company's purpose, its strategy, and what matters to the team so that they will engage with it, understand it, and become owners.
Have you got a good example of one?
Yeah.
Good example of a share option plan?
Yeah.
Where it's worked and...
Well, I won't name the company, but
No.
I did design one, which was effectively triggered by performance hurdles within the business, not within the share price. So when revenue gets to a certain number, a bunch of share options get issued. But to make them valuable to the employee, instead of issuing them at the current share price, we issued them at 0. So the team never had any downside.
Right, so they got shares for free.
They did. They got options for free. Okay. But a free option has a tax consequence. When they exercise the option, they have to pay tax. And if the option is granted at less than fair value, they have to pay tax on the grant of the option. So there is still a net negative, and they're still investing something. But revenue and the cost of acquiring that revenue. So the key metric was, which is my mantra in every startup, if I give you $1, you better give me $1 back or you've failed.
Okay.
Right? It's pretty obvious, I would have thought. So the mantra was, you get me $1 of recurring revenue for every dollar you spend getting it. And while you maintain that ratio, you will get option grants every year. But instead of it being options, they were fully paid shares.
Okay.
And they got to keep them. Now, the problem was there were no progressive grants during it. It was binary. Until that ratio got better than dollar for dollar, no grants were given.
Okay.
Okay? But when they got them, they owned them. Now, that was a pretty unusual plan.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds all in the benefit of the employee.
Yep. But the employee didn't see it because they weren't getting instant gratification, which was a piece of paper saying you've got some shares right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they got pretty grumpy with that and said, but everyone else is giving us option plans. That effectively means we've got 1 million shares on day one at, $2 a share. And I said, well, that's fine, so long as the share price goes above $2 a share. And if it doesn't, I've given you nothing. We just want a standard plan. Great. We gave them a standard plan.
And they were happy?
No.
Oh, no.
2 years on, they've worked out, as a couple of people left, that as soon as they left, they had to pay up their shares or forfeit them, right?
Oh, that sounds very sneaky.
Right?
Yeah.
So most option plans run by startups are very much geared to retention and also overly weighted to favour the employer.
Right.
So
which for
if you're an
me is the
employee-
wrong philosophy. If you are running a share option plan or a share ownership plan, what's your objective? Your objective is to mint some new owners, people who think like owners. Now, that's a large mantra for most people, but they generally fail to achieve it. Right? And the only way you can make someone actually feel like an owner is to suffer like an owner, okay? Which means you have to say to them, I'm going to give you a bonus in cash. You can either keep the cash or you can give it back to me and I'll give you shares instead. So they make a conscious choice to take the shares rather than a forced choice.
Yeah.
Once they make a conscious choice of saying, well, I could keep that $1,000 or I could buy 1,000 or maybe even more worth of shares, they're making a conscious step to become an owner, right? Now, when that happens, you get different behaviours than when they're forced. So the successful ones I have seen are ones that actually work on the downside as well as the upside. Okay. Most share option plans only work when the tide's coming in. Okay.
When the company's making money, then everybody makes money.
Yep, and the share price goes up and everyone basks in the glory of how wealthy they are until the share price goes down and then everyone gets depressed.
Sounds normal.
And guess what happens when they're depressed and they've got no skin in the game? They leave. Guess what happens to your trajectory on the downside when your talent leaves when you need them to stay?
You go down even further.
You go down even further. So most option plans only work on forward positive momentum and life isn't that simple.
Right.
Right. So it's
Whereas-
not for everyone.
Correct. Second thing is share ownership plans where someone owns 1,000 shares, assuming the company doesn't go completely broke, the shares always have a value, right? They may have bought them for $1,000 and they may only be worth $200, but there's still $200 at stake, right?
So still got skin in the game.
Still got skin in the game, so the whole isn't as bad.
Okay, so there's got to be, if you have a business of 20 to 30 people, you wouldn't offer everybody the opportunity to be an owner. So how do you set the rules around who can and who can't?
So it varies. So some businesses will only offer it to mission critical talent. So you've got a leadership team of 3 or 4 people and a broader team of 50. Boards will say, well, I can lose a pleb, who cares? Right? But I can't afford to lose my chief operating officer. So I'm going to give that person a big lick of shares to lock them in. So generally, when it is narrowly focused, you're focusing on retaining or attracting key people for mission critical roles. Okay? So that's one approach. The other approach is do it for everyone, right? And there's a whole iteration of variations within that. If you do it for everyone, you're making a couple of psychological and philosophical statements. And if you don't agree with this philosophy, then of course you won't do it. But the philosophy is we only succeed if we all succeed. We're only as strong as our weakest link. Every human is as important as every other human in a team, and every task completed by every individual adds to the whole, right? If you take that philosophy, then you would offer it to everyone, right? Then the question is, well, just hired a new receptionist, not sure whether he or she will last the distance. Sure, I think I select well, but I might not know whether or not this one's a keeper. Right?
And there are typical job positions that have high turnovers regardless.
That isn't so much a problem. It's values alignment, right? If you haven't got values alignment or sense that there is at least the base of culture that this person will fit into your team, you don't particularly want to offer them shares.
So how long do you give them to figure that out?
We give them 2 years.
Okay.
If they last 2 years, they're probably going to stay for 10. If they don't last 2 years, well, they weren't meant to be, such as life, right?
Okay.
So 2 years, just straight salary. They get bonuses for the first 2 years here, right? So they get paid cash. They get used to getting bonuses. Then in year 3, they get their cash and they can buy shares if they want. If they don't, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So we offer it to everyone here. Another company that runs a similar scheme to our scheme is only offering it after 10 years.
Ooh.
Right.
That's a long time.
Right, because they want to make absolutely sure that these people are absolute, kumbaya.
Yeah.
Here till they retire kind of people.
Yeah. And they went a step further and said, we're only going to offer it to the senior leadership team that's been there for 10 years. So it became a very small group.
Yeah, so that's not really that whole philosophy that you're talking about that makes everyone feel included as one.
No, but you can't win every battle.
No, yeah.
Can't win every battle. Start with the broad principle of issuing fully paid shares, making them pay for them out of bonuses. I got that through. Got it through for a really small group. It's now just the senior leadership team and 10 years. That's easy. I've only got 2 moving bits. I just move the 10 years down to a lower number and I widen the band and eventually you get there.
Yeah.
How many people do you want to have owning your business?
More the merrier.
Really?
Okay, so
50
now,
people?
Yep. If everyone's a shareholder, your AGMs can be very chaotic. Okay.
True.
Can I ask, what rights do the employees have then if they're a shareholder in the company?
So just as I said, share option plans are good on the upside and bad on the downside, I often categorise share option plans as appointing Mr. Market as your HR manager. Okay. And
too many Indians, too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
Right, so Mr. Market, when Mr. Market's in a bad mood, the whole fucking company's in a bad mood, right? So Mr. Market is a psychotic, multiple personality, manic depressive. Right? That's what Mr. Market is.
Okay.
Right? So when the market's going crazy, everyone's optimistic. When the market's going bad, everyone's gloom and doom, and they're huge extremes of emotion. So share option plans, I say to people, if you choose to have an option plan where you can go to 0, you are appointing a manic depressive multiple personality, crazy dude as your HR manager. Do you really want to do that? Which is how I sell fully vested share plans. Now, going back to your question, which I've now forgotten because I went off on a tangent.
It was what rights do the employees have if they're a shareholder?
So what rights are the rights that are given to them by the company?
Yeah,
so in GS's case, every share has an equal right to vote on everything, right? So they're normal shares. You get to behave as a normal owner. You get to go to the AGM. You get all the normal information a shareholder gets. You get to vote. You get to speak. It's all great until it isn't, right? Until you get a bunch of 50 shareholders in the room, of which 45 are your employees, who have just found a new forum to form a union and go crazy, right? Then your AGMs are really unpleasant, right? And employees can often, if they're grumpy in an AGM, bring matters to an AGM that aren't relevant to you as a shareholder. I want to talk about why the water cooler's broken. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay.
Not the place.
Yeah, okay.
Not
So
the
they've
place.
got the right to have their say, basically.
Yeah.
And it stops there.
So is it a matter of employees can get some manager or senior leader out of their position?
Nope.
No,
That's a board decision, but they can vote the board off,
Oh.
right?
Okay, because I was going to say employees should have the right to be able to say these and bring these things up anyway, regardless of being a shareholder or not.
They
Yeah,
should be
you
able to
mean
bring
just
them up
They
internally.
can actually do
Yes.
a vote.
Somewhere else,
Yeah.
just not in the AGM.
Okay.
So essentially what I've just heard is that
so they
don't
can have that,
any
or you
rights.
can restrict it. So in another company, we put all of the employees' shares in a nominee company. Okay, so that only the representatives of the nominee company could attend the AGM.
Okay.
That way, we could control who represented all of the employees, so that the lunatics were left in their straitjackets where they needed to be, right?
Come on now, you like your employees.
Right. So I don't like that model. I figure if someone wants to be a dickhead, let them be a dickhead, because it's A, who they are and they're authentic, and B, there are consequences.
You're authentically being a dickhead.
Yeah, if you want to
Makes it
authentically,
okay.
makes it okay. At least if you're a real dickhead, it's better than the alternative. And the point is, they tend to burn their own bridges. Okay. If, however, they've got a point, they'll win the day. It doesn't matter if they're a dickhead, right?
Yeah.
So it all comes down to the debate. So you can restrict their rights, you can restrict their right to attend, you can make their shares non-voting, you can do whatever you like. But if you go back to philosophy, if you're an owner and you own something, you own it. And if you own it, you have rights. And one of the rights you have is to have a say. One of the rights you have is to critique the business. If you choose to fetter that, how the hell are you teaching and encouraging your team to behave like owners? Right?
You
Doesn't
can't
make
have
sense.
one without the other. You can't say, here is an opportunity to be an owner so that you've got skin in the game, but you can't say anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The,
So you've got to be
the
prepared
signalling's
for
wrong.
Yeah.
that kind of thing
Yeah.
when you're getting into this.
So how do you deal with that? You say, okay, we give everyone the same rights. You can restrict them. How do you deal with aberrant behaviour? You have a good chairman who then says, I think it's enough of this now. Shut up and let's stick to the resolution, right? So you need strong chairmanship. And employees need to understand the difference between being an owner and being marshalled to behave as an owner and being disciplined as an employee. They're not the same things,
Yep.
right? And it's not the same process. And being disciplined as an owner can be quite painful, as I have been disciplined as an owner myself a number
I'm
of
sure.
times. However, they do it with love and care because you're their partner. Right? What was the question again that I didn't answer? I feel
No,
I have,
you've answered
You've
my
answered it
question.
now,
It's
it's good.
good.
which was what?
Which was what rights?
What rights does an employee have?
Okay, so no, I didn't say what I wanted to say. So,
Okay, you go for it.
so there's a wonderful little novel called Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. And in that novel, there was a character called Milo Mindebender.
Okay.
And Milo Mindebender was an entrepreneur, and he made all of his cohorts shareholders. And one day, one of the pilots that was flying missions to deliver oranges to the Germans on the back run from bombing them with bombs, it was a World War II novel, asked Milo for his share, expecting to get money. And Milo Mindebender smiled at him very nicely and gave him a beautifully embossed share certificate. So in reality, what you own when you own a share of something is a right
And a certificate.
and a
A
certificate,
piece of paper.
Yeah.
and you get some dividends.
But beautifully embossed.
Well, actually, in New Zealand, we've abolished embossed share certificates. It's just a digit at the share register.
Yes, I think someone asked for one the other day, actually, asked Jessie if they could get a...
Yes.
And she's like, doing all this research, like, can you get... And then she made one up.
She did. She made one up and
just
sent
to
it to
make
him, just to make him happy.
Yeah.
It was one of our happy stories here where Jessie made... No, it was Sam, actually. Sam made the client happy by... Because it was an American who wanted a share certificate, so she made one up for him.
Yeah, I thought that was beautiful.
It was a beautiful story. But what do you own? You own a piece of paper, right, with some rights.
Yeah.
And behind those rights, along with a whole bunch of other people, you own an asset. Whether it's a property or a business, you own a proportionate share of that asset. And my mantra with share option plans is I want to teach people how to be responsible owners. That's my objective.
Right.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Sheppard, the problem solvers in business.
Okay, Bruce. So you've got shares, options, whichever, out to your employees. What happens if they leave? They just got to give it up? Do they get a payout? What happens?
So it varies based on plans. With share option plans, they normally have 3 months to cough up the price or forfeit, right? So they've got to physically pay money, which if the options are out of the money, of course they won't. And if they are in the money, guess what the employee does?
Stays?
No, sells them and tries to take the margin. So if the option price is $2, they exercise their option and then immediately attempt to resell them at $2 and take the cash, which is fully taxable. So normally, most employees exit. Even if they have the right to remain, most exit, right? Because they're making a clean break. They want to move on. So that's what normally happens in option plans. In share plans, you can rapidly go from having a share register of driven owners with employees to driven owners, employees, and ex-employees.
Yeah.
So normally the business will not want ex-employees to remain, normally.
Well, they no longer have skin in the game.
They no longer have skin in the game. They're no longer driving the canoe forward.
Yeah.
The employer will want to take the shares back so that they can sell them to another person, right? So usually the company will have the right to buy back the shares, okay, at a market price.
Yep.
Okay. So what we do here is we have with our employees, if you leave, other than in retirement, so if you retire, you can keep your shares because, we want you to be part of a journey for life and play the violin. But if you leave, we buy back your shares, and if you're a good leaver, we guarantee that you will never get less than the price you paid for them, even on a down round.
Wow. Okay.
If you're a bad leaver, you get market price, or zero if you're a very bad leaver.
Is that all written into the plan?
Yep.
Wow.
Bad lever equals.
Yeah.
Well, no, you have to define bad leaver.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
what
I was
the
going to
hell's a
ask, but
bad
it's
leaver?
kind of like, isn't that obvious? Maybe.
Yeah, so, I could think, Tori, you're a pretty bad leaver. If, it was really bad of you to leave us to go overseas. I think that's a bad leaver, and you own shares, so fuck you, I'm going to take your shares off you for zero. No, doesn't work that way. You have to define it, and the easiest way to define it is bad leaver is any matter that you've taken to the ERA, Employment Relations Authority,
Okay.
where you have won a bad leaver case.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Other than that, it's not a bad leaver.
It does seem like just a sneaky scheme to get money out of employees or not pay them a bonus or it does seem to be all on the side of the employers. So I want to understand why it's good.
Generally, it isn't. Generally, it isn't.
So why would a business owner do it? Just because
No, I'm saying generally it isn't from an employee's point of view. Generally. Is it good from a business owner's point of view? Well, yes.
Seems to be, yeah.
Right?
So why would employees sign up? What's the point?
They've been to a I Had a Dream conference. Everyone else is getting shares. Why can't I have them? So normally when I'm talking to senior management in a business about a share plan, because it's normally senior management that wants shares, I say, well, do you know what a share is? And they'll give you a legal... I said, it's a right, okay, to vote. You're only ever going to have 1% of the company, or maybe 2. Guess what? Someone else has got 98. 98 beats 2, right? No matter what you want, you're irrelevant.
So then if there's no benefit for the employee, why did you do it?
Because it's a philosophy, right? Why do I do it here?
Yes.
I want to teach people that the best way to a happy and wealthy existence is to buy and own things, not trade them, not sweat your blood, but to actually invest and own, okay?
Okay.
It is the best way to a future life of prosperity. It just is, okay? How do you demonstrate that? You've got to bring people simply and easily on an ownership journey from whenever they're ready. But they have to understand that ownership is not a gift. If it's a gift, it's irrelevant to you. So you have to always give them the choice of, here's a bonus, and a month later we offer them shares, and they can either buy the shares or not, they can keep the cash or not. I don't care. The power is in actually always giving them an option to become an owner if they want to, okay? Secondly, in order for it to teach them a positive lesson, it is better that it be a positive investment, right? Hence why we say, on the downside, if you leave, and you're not a bad leaver, you're going to get your money back or the market value, whichever's the higher.
So it's an opportunity to teach.
It's an opportunity to teach ownership.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, shall we call it a mission rather than a philosophy. As a philosophy, if you take the view that business is a collective of human spirits, getting them connected, making them feel that they're part of something, sharing it with them is a better way to live than sit at your desk, punch some digits into a screen, show me the money, you're not showing me money anymore, bugger off.
Yeah.
It's a better way to live.
Yeah. Okay, so you did talk before about how one of the options is to open to everybody after maybe a certain period of time. Let's say there's a person you really don't want to offer it to. You offer it to everybody except for that person.
You have a discretion.
Yes.
You always have a discretion.
Is that kind of a silent way of saying, we actually don't want you here?
Let's say you are going to exercise that discretion. You offer it to 25 people, bar one.
Bar one.
Okay, that person has no remedies under the Employment Relations Act, because you always have the right, but you've sent them a solid darn signal. And their choices are, what did I do wrong? Why didn't you offer me the shares? You can then have a conversation, and they either turn around or they don't, and at that point they do what they're going to do, and you've moved them on.
Sounds a little bit evil. Like you could play a horrible person.
Sometimes you have to, right? For the good of the whole. Have we ever withheld offering shares to any individual? No. I did hold it back from everyone for 1 year.
Oh, yeah?
That's fair.
Why?
Well, remember I said you need to ensure that the investment's going to be a good one.
Right. Was it not a good year?
During COVID, I just said everyone has to play the hand they've got. I'm not going to take any money off you. You're better to take whatever bonus we give you and pay down your mortgage or your debt. We're suspending it for a year because there's so much fundamental uncertainty that I can't actually stare you in the eye and say, give me some money, which is you giving me money and me taking it.
Yeah.
Me taking cards out of your hand to make my hand stronger with that level of uncertainty.
I'm going to say, in the sense of you doing that, is still teaching the employees how to be good owners.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Because if you're not a good owner, you would have taken their money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
ownership is not a right. It's a privilege, and privilege generates responsibility. So when I'm talking to business owners, I say to them, if you want a sustainable business that lives beyond this year, you need to think long term. And if you're thinking long term, you have to have a set of core values that guide you. And you have to actually ensure that you never do the wrong thing economically. Okay? Or otherwise you won't be sustainable.
Yeah.
So when you are confronting an opportunity to profit, ask yourself, can I, will I, should I? And the most important question is, should I?
Yeah, which is what I was going to ask for any business owners that are looking to do this, because they've been asked by their employees to do so, which seems to be the common scenario.
Yes, it's most often from the employees
Yeah.
up than the top down.
What advice do you have for that business owner?
I say to them, get them some coaching. So a number of clients have said my employees want to buy shares. I'll say, well, the first thing you've got to do is make sure they're prepared for what ownership entails and what a share is. So I do the Milo Minderbender share, tell them to go away and read Catch 22, and in particular Milo Minderbender employing the Air Force
It's a
to
mouthful,
deliver...
eh?
Minderbender is quite good.
Yeah.
To deliver supplies to the Germans. And
Yep.
making lots of money, but Milo kept it all and gave his employees share certificates, right? Make sure they understand what a share certificate is.
Yeah.
Understand that 99 outvotes 1.
Yeah.
So they actually have to understand that they're a passenger involved with the journey, but they're not driving the bus.
Yeah.
Okay? Make sure they understand that, and
Yep.
make sure they understand that business goes up and down.
Yeah.
Happy to have that conversation with them. So I've had a number of conversations with senior execs where I say, well, be careful what you wish for. Why do you actually want this?
Yeah.
Right? So I say, why do you want it? Well, everyone else has got it.
Yeah. It does seem like the only good reason is if you want to do the philosophy on people.
For me, that's the only good reason.
Yeah.
So then they'll say, I want information. Right? They'll say, the employee will say, I want information. You know, I feel like I'm not being told everything. At least as a shareholder, I'll be told everything. So, well, no, you won't. You'll just get an annual report. Okay? If you're concerned about your employer's communications, that's an HR issue.
Yeah, that's another problem.
It's a different
It's got
problem.
nothing to do with
Different platform.
shares.
Or they'll say it's about ego and status. Right?
Yep.
I want to be an owner because when I'm an owner, I feel important. My little tail feathers have gone up. Okay. So my normal answer to that is, so you have a self-image problem, do you? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So you think becoming a 1% shareholder in this company is in some way going to elevate you, right? Cool.
Nope.
Probably won't, okay? But just examine ego and status as a motivation. And then the final one is money. They do it because they think it will make them money. And I said, well, actually, it doesn't always make money.
Yep.
And how are you going to cope with losing money?
Yeah.
What's your
So-
attitude to loss? So I have those sorts of discussions with people.
So an owner is looking to satisfy an employee, and an employee is looking to feel like they have a future with the company.
Yeah, which is belonging, journey.
Yeah.
All of that's
Yeah.
HR.
Yeah.
It's all HR.
Right. So it's just basically it's a team building game.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's better with conversations.
Yeah, obviously. Can't push someone down a slide if they don't want to go down a slide.
Yeah. No, it's
Or better to
interesting.
grab their belt before they jump down the slide and say, now before you go down, you sure?
You
I'll let
sure?
go of the belt.
Sure.
Do you know what the journey looks like?
Did you
Yeah.
read the fine print?
All right, so if our listeners are business owners wanting to talk with you about employee share schemes, how can they get a hold of you?
On GS's website.
Okay, perfect. So that's gilligansheppard.co.nz. Thank you so much for your time, Bruce. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Sheppard, the problem solvers in business.